Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Pennywine podcast. We got Josh here today, special once in a lifetime opportunity. We got Tasha and we got Jake. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
It's technically twice in a lifetime opportunity now.
Yeah, he was last month.
Twice in a year time
Yeah.
opportunity. Yeah.
Hello, folks.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, we got four beautiful movies for you today. So we got we got The Exorcism of Emily Rose, It Follows, Honeydew, and The Babysitter. But before we get into it, I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. What kind of did you guys have a good month this month? You got any big news or anything on the horror side?
Nope.
No,
Nope.
big,
Nope.
no big news. I finished the first Silent Hill. Not a fan. I like the second and third ones. They're pretty good. The first one has not aged well. Am I getting into what horror did you watch? Are we doing that at the beginning now?
Yeah, we could do that later as well. I just wanted to. I don't know. I just want to shake it up this time. I just want to
Way to
surprise you
throw
guys.
everybody off guard.
Yeah, exactly. See, Tasha's mad. She's giving me the evil eyes. All
I
right.
did watch a lot more horror this month than usual, so I'll have more to talk about when we get to it.
Okay.
All right. Cool. All right. So as I said, we got the four movies. So we'll start with the Exorcism of Emily Rose. So Tasha, was that your recommendation? I believe.
Yes.
All right. Go ahead and do your synopsis.
So basically, it's a story about Emily Rose, and she is possessed. Basically, it is taking place mainly in a courtroom because they're trying to convict this priest that did the exorcism, and they're trying to say he's guilty for killing her. But basically, it goes through the whole process. Later on, they find out he's guilty, but they still let him free. But yeah, that's basically the concept. Short and sweet.
Cool. Yeah. So we've seen this movie a few times over the years. First time I saw it was a little after it was new. A few years afterwards, it came out in 2005, and I've always really enjoyed it. This time, I think I enjoyed it even more so. But what did you guys feel about it?
It threw me for a loop. I was not expecting the courtroom drama aspect of it. Like based on I had never seen it before, but based on the cover art and all the stuff I'd heard about this movie, I was expecting it to be like a hardcore, like gross gore like type movie, and then I'm like, oh no, this is like a big budget, like very not watered down, but very kind of like PG horror. It's not what I was expecting, but not in a bad way. I liked the courtroom, like setting of it.
Yeah, I told Tasha you like it's so uncommon for horror movies, but even if you removed the horror bits of this movie, you'd still be left with a pretty good movie, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had Josh.
Same. Same. No, I liked the movie a lot for the plot and the setup, but just the overall kind of how it was all put together. It was a good one to where you got involved, and like I always had like my different categories on how to rate movies with whether it's a thriller or a horror or a jump scare or something. Like it had a little bit of it had the jump stuff too, like with the exorcism, and the actress did an amazing job at being exorcised. Like I really liked how she kind of portrayed this character, and so I thought that was a really good job on her part, and it made you revisit someone like with the original Exorcist, and like you're getting that type of those elements back, but you're also coming from a different angle of like now this priest is like this whole courtroom thing, which like you would never think like that would be and it was a little ironic, just like it's like the demons against the priests in a courtroom, like you never like imagine that, but technically, I mean, it was based off of a true story, and so I guess this did happen, and so it was interesting, and I liked the perspective. It was a different kind of angle on some of the similar themes that have been kind of existing for over the years.
Yeah, my one major gripe with the movie was just I feel like and I guess it was based on a true story, and they were maybe trying to lean more into that. But I just felt like Emily was not a character, like, because I don't think she had any like actual dialogue. It was all like through flashback, and she said maybe a couple words here or there.
Yeah,
It made me not really care as much about her because I'm like I need a reason. I mean, yeah, she seems
that's a
like a
good
nice
point.
girl, but I need a reason to like want her to live and like get past this, you know? Like the only scene that she had like kind of a backstory was that scene where she's like runs into the room and, "Mother, I got a scholarship. I'm going to college." I was like, that's the cheesiest shit ever. I really hated that scene. That was my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, I wish they did, have more of a story based. I mean, I really enjoyed the courtroom, but it would be more beneficial.
Yeah, and I had a thought on what both of you all said. So Jake, I've never thought of that, and that is such an like that. That's actually such a good point. I've never thought of like. I guess it's just because I'm automatically like, I feel bad for her because she died. But yeah, like you, except for her saying she got into university, you know almost nothing about her. You don't know if she likes Coke or Pepsi. You don't know nothing.
She
And
could have been like a psychopath serial killer in the making. I mean,
they
you never
said she
know.
was a good person, but at the same time, right? Like, okay, I'm gonna reel back on this, and you guys are like, all right. So what if it's filmed in a way where you're supposed to be like the juror, where the juror can't know for sure who she was because you're just hearing the story afterwards, and you're seeing flashbacks based on what they described. So they're not going to be able to see all those like minor moments in between that and kind of form where who she really was as a person. You know, it's just a couple lawyers arguing about it, I guess.
I think from my perspective, I think that's the point of the movie in a way is you're getting that perspective. Like you're kind of the fly on the wall with certain areas, but you really focus on like how are they going to convince the jurors, and you're understanding um like with the rules of the court and stuff, you can't like do the assumptions, you can't like, and then they all do like what is opinion, and all this type of stuff. Like and exploring that challenge and basically like what exists today of like people believing in God or believing in that. What are the challenges that you handle that in court when it's supposed to be this thing about separation of church and state, and like now you're dealing with this whole like meddling between the two, and you're trying to like follow these rules and
Yeah,
convince these people in the courtroom who are trying to kind of keep your beliefs out of it. And
yeah,
like it's exploring that challenge, which I enjoyed it to that point.
yeah.
But it would be interesting to also get that other perspective that you're right. Yep, you're good. You can go ahead.
I also agree. I don't want to forget the other point that I had too. I was like, I also really agree with you on the possession side and on the court thing you just said because the like I think it's really easy to come across as like really cheesy, like you want to just take a dump face whenever like people like try to act possessed and stuff like that. So it's like one of those things where it either looks like really cringe or it looks pretty good and yeah, I think it did look pretty good. But I also think that in the court aspect, like I didn't really think of it that way. Honestly, some of the court stuff pulled me out of it a little bit because I was like, I don't know if like this would ever be allowed. I don't know like what happened if this was a real case. I didn't really do any background research on how this actually happened versus the movie. But if the movie depiction is semi true, I would be so salty if I was the prosecuting lawyer in this case. That like all this stuff is coming in, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do? But then he ends up winning anyways, and he looks salty even though he won. But then like they were
Yeah.
just like, we're just gonna sentence him to time served, and I'm like, what? Like what? Can you explain? Can somebody explain this to me? That's the only part where I was like, what the fuck?
I really didn't like the ending. I felt like it just kind of like two questions I'm left with. At the end, they're like, "Oh, Erin, I think the woman, the
Yeah,
female lawyer, they're like, you did such a great job. Everyone says you won." And it's like, no, she lost. Like in the court of law, they're not getting paid because they lost. Like
yeah,
the prosecutor won. So I don't get how that's a happy ending. And also just the whole thing of like all throughout the movie, like this demon is stalking Aaron and the priest, and then as soon as case is over, the demons just go away. I'm like, why though? Why are they all of a sudden just... was the demon Emily and now she's not pissed because her story's been told? Like, why would the demon stop I didn't get why. I mean, obviously the movie has to end, but it just there was
Right.
no resolution to that. It just felt kind of
Yeah.
like we're gonna throw some
Yeah.
scares in for the sake of scares.
I have a feeling that got trimmed on the editing floor in some way to where we didn't. Maybe I'm super wrong on that, but like they did develop that. I wish that they would have just trimmed all of that out, where the lawyer lady was kind of getting harassed by the demons or whatever, and just sort of focused on the case itself. But I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, my thought on that is just this came out like post Saw, so it was like a little boom in horror. So
Mm.
when I said this felt like a big studio movie, I feel like some of the horror they were just like, we just need a scary part here. Like let's it feels like it almost wasn't written as a horror movie, and then they were like, well, we have to have some scares. Some of the scares were cool, but for me they all just felt like so tacked thrown in there, like we need a scare here. Let's just do something.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you hardcore with that. Like,
Yeah.
and I don't know in the ratings, but like when we're comparing some of these other movies, like when it's on the horror aspect, my rating's not going to be that high. I'm not going to say anything yet until we go through it. But as a movie, it was good. In my opinion, like movie was a good setup, but when it's in that genre of horror, I wouldn't be like, this is not a top horror movie at all. It's like one of those where it just kind of like goes based off of the similar concept, but like for leaving me off, like where I'm kind of disturbed, like another movie we're going to talk about, like it kind of felt just like, not about it, and it's kind of like still getting me now. Didn't do anything like that to me, like because they had that closure too much at the end where just nothing, like it just left you there. You didn't feel anything afterwards. You're just like, okay, I saw a movie, that was good, set me up, okay, and that was it. And like it didn't give you that, like, or some of the better ones that I've seen, like where you're still kind of just disturbed at the end and like your adrenaline's still pumping and stuff. Like this movie basically just gently just lied you down at the end. It's like, oh, don't worry, it's okay. So that's kind of like where I'm coming from. It's a good movie and I like it, but I think
Right.
that amount of closure they did at the end, to where like nothing, was kind of my little bit of that whole disappointment on the horror side. But for a movie, it was good.
I don't feel like we steamrolled Tasha and didn't let her say a word.
Oh, no,
Like
no.
this was your pick, so like why did you pick this movie, or like what's your history with this movie?
I just, it's been a while since I've watched it, and, I think a lot of us where we just saw Conjuring 3, I just wanted to, watch another possession movie, in a sense. But,
Yeah, it is kind of similar.
yeah, but in a sense, I just, like, there was definitely some why questions, as, like, what possessed this demon to come. Because usually there's a story behind.
Yeah. Well, and I remember the spot though where it revealed that it wasn't a demon and that it was actually Lucifer or whatever. And I thought that they were going to do something like that, be like the power level is going to be higher somehow. I don't know, but I mean, like as far as the plot goes, that was kind of irrelevant. You know what I mean? Um, and so I was just saying, like that's like a criticism I have for the movie. I wasn't saying that, to you or anything.
No, you're good.
But you reminded me of it, and also I was like telling Tasha like apparently like Lucifer and Satan are different, and it reminded me of that whenever that moment came up in the thing. I was like, wait, what do they mean? Which one do they mean? Anyways, anyway, I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't really study that stuff. So leave me a
I'm not
comment
quite the
below and tell me
Satanist I
how
used
wrong
to
I
be.
am. Oh, sorry, what, Jake?
Not quite the Satanist I used to be.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see if they have fall in line if it's a true story, like the recordings. Like if there's some way like to find like the actual recordings of that court case or not, if that's available or not. I wish I did some research with that before
Yeah.
getting on there, but it'd be interesting to listen to.
One thing I think Mike mentioned a little bit that I really liked this movie did, I wish they would have done more of, was when I think it was at the end when she was like at the misty tree and they showed footage of her like having the demon exorciser, and then it switched to the prosecutor, and he's describing it as like a real thing of like, oh, she just had a seizure and she grabbed the barbed wire fence, and like I liked how they filmed it twice and showed like the demon explanation and then the real world science explanation, kind of like how the last exorcism did in like when they showed
Mm-hmm.
the setup of that. Like I wish they would have played with that a little more to like kind of show like this is how this is what happened, or more like Blair Witch where it's like it's ambiguous. Like was she actually possessed or did she make it up? I think that's why I didn't like it. This movie was very much like you need to believe this. This is what we're telling you. I wish it would have been more like here's both sides. It's whatever you want to believe type of like
I've always
that's
interpreted it that way, though, even if that's not the way that you think it's like presented. I've always interpreted it as like it could be either way, but the movie definitely has its preference.
You know, if I was Emily, at the end, I probably would have just followed the Mary and just like go ahead and die instead of suffering even
100%.
more.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
mean, why would you want to suffer?
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end all it's like basically she was proven wrong because he was found guilty of killing her, so obviously demons aren't real. So like she basically died for nothing
Yeah.
in the eyes of that court case.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, Jake, I like that.
Well,
It's over there with you. It's good delivery.
He's just pissed all over her grave, Jake.
Yeah, no, I'm. Well, I'm just like, it is kind of sad because yeah, she wasn't made a saint yet, right? From what I know from
Not
Catholic
that I
Church or
know of.
anything like that. And the goal, right, was to basically be this messenger again, like Jesus Christ was,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like dying for our sins, trying to show that existence of this devil or this evil being, and so she chose this route and going the hard way. And yeah, it's kind of sad that there's not evidence. Nobody's kind of giving a nod to this. It's just a basically kind of like just watching a sad story, and just like kind of sucks. But
Right.
that's what the world is. Yeah.
All right. Are you guys ready to go into ratings now?
Yeah, I'm good. Jake?
All right.
I'm good.
All right. Since it's my film, I'll rate it first.
Excuse you?
Oh no, sorry. It's your film. I'm sorry. I was gonna recommend this
Wow.
one and she stole it. I'm so sorry.
Um,
Cringe. Cringe. Sorry.
So even though there's still questions opening about this movie, I still really like this movie. So I think I'm going to give it an 8 still because I still really enjoy it.
Really? Dang. All right. Well, since she went and I'm next to her, I guess I'll go next. So I have always loved this film. It's got a special place in my heart, but I saw some more flaws this time. But in a way, I actually enjoyed it more because I'm more used to the pacing of this movie than I was when I was, younger. But I actually think I will bump it down 1 point overall versus the last time I watched it. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I'm leaning towards a 7. But there's a lot of movies on this podcast that I've rated a 7, and I don't think it stacks up to some of the ones that I do. And also, I just wanted to include one more thing I just took a mental note of. I love the shot from the cover. I love the one with all the fog where she's standing outside of her body and she like has that talk and then she goes back. I've always thought that was a very ominous, like very cool shot. So I just wanted to mention, that I liked that moment. And yeah, that's the end of my review.
Okay. Jake?
Um, guess I'll do a 6 out of 10 as well. I was thinking a 5 because this movie, like we said, it's a good movie. I liked the courtroom like story of it, but some of it did feel kind of cheesy and very formulaic in a way. And I just felt that a lot of the horror aspects outside of the actual exorcism and everything that actress did was fantastic. She was the best part of this movie for me. Just all the horror outside of that just felt so tacked on. It felt like this was like a movie that was written by like 50 people and everyone threw their ideas in the studio. It just felt very studio driven. not in a bad way, but it felt kind of average to me for that.
Okay.
Okay, Josh.
Yep. Yeah. So basically, to kind of be in that same boat with you guys, 6 out of 10 for horror. For a movie, like an 8 out of 10. It was a good movie, but 6 out of 10 for when it's just straight horror, jump scares, thriller, anything like that. 6 out of 10. Like you had elements in there, but it's by far not one of the best kind of
Right.
horror movies in my book.
All right.
Cool. All right. We got three sixes. Do you notice that? You know, it's an exorcism movie.
Uh,
I was. That's why I was hoping Josh would give it a six as well. So that's very appropriate.
so
Um,
ironic.
all right. So the next one is It
It's the
Follows.
movie.
What?
It fits the movie.
Yo.
Yeah. So the next one is It Follows, and that was my recommendation. So you guys will have to listen to my voice for a second, but I'll do a quick synopsis. This movie is difficult to summarize, but I'll do my best. So there's like an STD where a creature of unknown origin will come after you if you have sex with someone that has sort of the STD of the creature. And so you transmit it, and then it comes after you. And then if it kills you, it goes back to the previous person who you had sex with and tries to kill them. So it's more of a conceptual horror thing where you always have to sort of worry and look over your shoulder all the time about it, because even if you pass it on to someone and they pass it on to someone else, you don't know when they're going to die, and if they die of old age or whatever, if it's going to come after you. So it's this thing that you have to fear for the rest of your life, and you also have to consensually like trick someone and intentionally pass it on to them. So the main character is mainly grappling with that idea of whether she wants to do that, which I don't think she ever does. She changes her mind a few times and doesn't. So I'll backtrack a little bit. So it starts out with a long one shot of a woman who dies of it, and then transitions to the main squad, and it's a bunch of hipster kids, and they intentionally didn't want to place the time period, so they use like old cars, but then they use some like newer technology, and they wanted you to watch it and just be like, I don't know when this movie is or whatever, to kind of up the horror factor. There's a lot of like zoomed out shots that's like Halloween style, where it films outward. But anyways, I'll keep with the plot. Sorry. So they try to escape. They try to get away from the creature while finding more about it. And essentially, the movie's about the creature trying to catch up to her. She passes it on to a neighbor that she doesn't really care for that much, intentionally, because he seemed like he could handle it. But then he dies from it, and then the other guy who she does care for wants her to pass it on, but she will not do it because she cares for him. She eventually does do it, and let me think. And then so they try to kill the creature in the pool, at like a pool place. Fails miserably, which is nice. And then the kind of the rest of the movie unfolds, and it ends with sort of not getting rid of the demon or anything like that, but just kind of an ambiguous ending, I guess. So that's my best synopsis. That the movie doesn't really have like a super predefined plot, so it's kind of hard to summarize. I hope I did an okay job. That was all over the place, but there you go. How'd you guys feel about
I
it?
I love this movie. I'm sure Mike showed it to me. I
Yeah.
don't remember if we watched it at your house or not,
Yes.
but
In my apartment.
uh,
Yep. Many years ago.
okay.
Like 6 years ago.
This and Insidious were like the two that really got me back into horror as an adult. I think this movie is like flawless. I just love everything about it. Like,
The
everything
music.
Mike
The music is
the
the best.
music is so unsettling and just perfect for this. I think I've said it on other podcasts, but this movie just makes me feel this like sense of dread and tension throughout the whole thing that other than like maybe the original Texas Chainsaw, like nothing has matched that for me. Just this kind of dread and like I know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm always super tense and on the edge of my seat whenever I watch this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how the thing kind of like it changes shapes, changes size, changes people, and then just it's just always heading for you. It's like ultimate paranoia, and I just feel bad for some of these people like that are have the STD that does it because that's a curse for the rest of their life basically.
No, and that's where, like, yeah, I'm mixed feelings, but there's things that just made me just necessarily like I might be just immature, but laugh a little bit. Just it seemed a movie maybe aimed towards like younger teenagers, like going through that drive of like puberty and sex and lust and all this type of stuff. And it was just like, and it was like an abstraction of the concept of what an STD can do or what it is, and to an extent. And like this movie gave it interesting perspective. Like never really saw anything like this before. So I could appreciate that, but I was going and like you got the boy that's in love with the girl that's the main character. They're trying to do everything. He's like, and then when you're trying, I'm just trying to like, if you're trying to explain to someone else this movie who hasn't seen it, I think there might be a challenge there to be like, this is one where everybody's kind of agreeing like, guys, we need to just sleep together in order to get this monster from stop chasing being like keep spreading it to an extent. And it was one of those. I had a different perspective, I think. And it might be I might have just drinking too much during that time when I was watching it, but I mean, honestly,
Hey, at
and
least you're
so it
honest.
could be that.
But
It was, it was I was entertained, and I was not, and there was some creepy stuff with it. But I think it was like in my opinion, just like the target audience was like high school teenagers, early college, like going where everybody's kind of exploring, and it's just that whole like almost like um, a public message or something like that about just like there's always this monkey on your shoulder and you got to keep kind of running away. And it was a fun idea, but for me to take it very seriously, I was having a hard time going that route for me.
okay, so here's my theory about this movie that I just thought about this time. I've always kind of thought the STD idea was weird before, but like my new theory is that it isn't an STD. It is like death and adulthood. Like
Mm.
having sex is like the transition from being a kid to being an adult, like generally people think that. So it's basically like once you're adult, that's when you realize like, shit, I'm gonna die someday. And then like once you realize that, then it's like always chasing you. So it's like
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's the like what I'm putting into this movie this time. Like,
That's,
I don't know,
okay.
that I like it a lot more now because I've found, I'm sure I'm putting that meaning into it, but I found a much deeper meaning into it. But it might have kind of been intentional because like the last line of the movie is the clamshell girl in the hospital bed, like she's reading some quote about death, and it ends with like the scariest thing about death is that it is certain. And then it's just like they go find the prostitute and are walking down the street and they don't know like, am I gonna die? Is it coming for me? Yes, it is.
Mm, yeah, yeah.
I like that.
I yeah, I just love the way like this movie was made for such a low budget. I think it was like 1 million, but it looks like it was made for a lot more. Like I don't know. To me, it looks like a higher budget movie than what it is. And I think one of the things that really brings this movie out for me is the way that it looks. Like I know that I'm kind of talking in circles, but you can tell that they gave a shit when they were filming it. It really shines through. Like in the scene, for example, where she's laying across the car and she's twirling her fingers with that like piece of grass that's sticking up, and she's giving like a monologue. And then right afterwards, sort of things are thrust into her with like he does like the wheelchair sequence and stuff, and like all every shot to me just comes across as like so intentional and so like artistically inspired, and it just for me it just shines through. It's just like just watching somebody's passion project where any shot I could take a screenshot and like make that the wallpaper for my computer. I love it. It's
Well,
so good.
when you steal it from John Carpenter, it's easy. So they didn't come
Yeah.
up with it.
Well, they
But
mastered it though.
one shot that I really love in this movie, it's after the car scene when they're in that kind of abandoned building, and he's got main character girl tied to the wheelchair, and he's just kind of going on this monologue explaining what it is and all the rules and stuff. And it goes on for a while, and you think the scene's about to end, and then he spins the wheelchair, and you realize the camera's on the front of it, and like you spin around with it, and it just adds. I just love that because it just takes the scene in a whole other like direction, and I was not expecting that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So me and Mike was wondering, and I wanted to know what y'all thought. Do you guys think that she had sex with the guys on the boat?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I don't.
yeah. And I think she was very disappointed when she found out that the thing popped up again. I don't know. I feel like
I don't think she went
that's
through with it.
my perspective.
I don't think she went through with
You don't think so?
because to me afterwards she seems like she's still grappling with the morality of whether she should or shouldn't do it. And if that's the case, then I don't think she did it personally.
But
Well, but it also be like, I really hope this doesn't come back. Like, I did this huge event here. Like, please, God, don't let it come back. Like, I spread it. And then it was that dread, which you found out, crap, that didn't work. And I just did this to myself and my body. It made it even worse to where it was just like, even more disappointment and more dread adding on to this pile that was happening.
yeah, I feel like she would have been scared enough of it coming back that she would have like fucked everyone that moved just to like I need to put as many bodies between this thing and me. I mean, that's honestly what I would do. But
She did look like she felt guilty of what she possibly did
Yeah,
when she was
I think
driving
all
in the car.
I think all you guys are wrong. Honest to God.
It's an opinion.
I think the only two people she had sex with in the movie were the two guys in the main group. The one guy that dies and the smaller dude that she liked. That's what I think.
I mean, that's why, we don't know.
Oh, I mean, it
We're
doesn't show it.
speculating.
I'm just saying.
the
That's what I think.
the ambiguity is like the best part about this movie is that you
Yeah.
can have discussions like this about like what does
Right.
it mean and like what did yeah,
Hell
I
yeah.
like the ambiguity.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
It
It was interesting.
Sorry.
Given this form of like, nobody can see it, but they can throw a blanket over it, and like it did like possess a space. So it wasn't necessarily like a ghost per se, but it was like this invisible entity that like everyone else can like sense all the elements except for seeing it. And I thought that was interesting to where like it created these obstacles for the monster to like do its thing. Yes, it took its time wherever it went, didn't necessarily run or anything like that, but people could figure that out. I thought that was a kind of it gave the challenge to the monster, so you didn't feel so helpless as like with the other characters like trying to run away and doing that. Like there was giving like almost this hope, kind of like made you hold on to that hope before like dropping you to an extent. So there are elements to this movie. I mean, the more you guys talk about it, gets me to want to maybe rewatch this with maybe a little less alcohol and redo my judgment there.
We're rubbing off on you.
It's
I really
Right.
liked it was kind of like the thing where it can essentially take the form of any person. So I liked how like when they're on the beach it takes the form of the clamshell girl.
Yeah.
You can kind of you see her floating by in the water, but then you also see her walking towards you and like,
Oh,
oh
yeah.
shit, that's it. Like that was a really good scare too.
This movie definitely holds up to rewatches in that way because there's always like a lot of the time there's like it's coming in the background and the filmmakers show like no emphasis on it. Like they trust you to find it for yourself and interpret like that's what's happening. And I love, for example, the scene where they're sitting on like on the grass when they track down the one guy, and you can see this girl walking towards them way far in the background, and you feel paranoid when it comes up, and then it acts like he's crazy because he's like, do you guys see that? Do you guys see that person? And then she just like walks by like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it really just kind of like emphasizes like how shitty this curse is, and like just the paranoia aspect of it. It kind of like gets you into their mind space through the shots and the background. And every time I watch it, I notice more instances of it coming towards them that I didn't notice before. So, yeah.
Alright, you want to go into ratings or?
Yeah, I'm
anything
ready
else?
for ratings. Oh yeah, I guess I'll do it first. Are you guys ready or?
Sure.
Alright,
Wait,
Alright.
sorry. One last thing. I don't know if I'm just stupid, but I didn't notice it this time. The form that it takes at the pool is the main character girl's dad.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until this viewing for some reason.
Wow, I never realized that, and I've seen it like 20 times.
I knew it the first time.
Oh.
They show like there's a bunch of scenes where she's in front of the mirror in a room, and then they very clearly show that there's a picture on the side of her and the dad.
Yeah.
I never put two and two together until this viewing.
Interesting.
I even told you before we even watched it.
Oh, I forgot then. Okay, so I'll go into my review. So, I have one con about it in my review that I just want to mention. It's so small, it doesn't really affect my rating. But for some reason, I just never liked the shot where it is like standing on top of the house. I remember saying that when we were walking out of the theater because I was like, how is that going to accomplish getting to it? It's not. I remember specifically saying it's not Santa. And it's not going to like come in through the chimney or whatever. And I really feel like that's just the one shot where they're like, that will look cool in this car driving off sequence, and that's it. That's the only reason that's there. And I guess I'm just want this like hyper realism, but anyways, and part of my review, I was planning on giving this a 7, but really going into it, I realized it's one of my favorites. It's one of the first ones I showed you to try to get you into horror. So in that aspect, I think I'm going to give it an 8. I just want to conclude my review also by saying one of my favorite moments, if not my favorite moment of the film for some reason, is when it walks into the pool area and no one else can see it, and they choose to film it in a way where you can't as well. And she says, like, do you see it? Do you see it right there? And, like, it takes a while. They film it in a way where you don't get to see it for a long time. And for me, that builds up so much tension for some reason. I don't know why it does. When I first saw the movie, the pool sequence was my favorite sequence. This time, aside from that part, it's my least favorite sequence, but that's still my favorite part. So it's like my favorite part is in my least favorite sequence of the movie, because I feel like that one drags. And I also hate the part where he shoots bullets through the water, like to try to hit the monster trying to pull her down. That just made me so mad. But anyways, that's it.
Yeah. In real life, he would have shot her and killed her because
yes,
he was basically
'cause
shooting
he's not
through
Clint
her.
Eastwood. He's like literally like dealing with water parallax and where she is trying to like aim a gun. No way. What's this garbage?
Shit.
Yeah.
No way.
Bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
And they didn't want to get wet, so they won't jump in and help her, so they just start shooting rounds, I guess.
Like, it's not going to kill them, I don't think, because I think it would just, like, throw them out of the way.
Yeah, because, like, when he tried to, like, WWE chair hit it, it just, like, yeets him away. Oh, sorry. Can I say one more thing? I love the moment where she's with her boyfriend, and they just have this little game where they could decide like who they would trade places with. I just think it's a cool little relationship building moment, and I just wanted to mention it. I like it.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and go. I really don't like the concept of this movie, especially trying to get rid of it. I just feel like prostituting yourself to get rid of something is not okay. And I don't know, it just annoys me, so I'm going to have to give this a 6 out of 10. What?
Hurts me.
Hold on. I think I got copies of the divorce papers in this drawer. Hold on.
Well, you can deal with it.
All right. Mike?
I'm gonna piggyback off a little bit with Tasha. Um, I mean, you guys make great points with the movie, but I'm still kind of struggling with the jokes you're making at the end, Mike. Like I was making a lot of those throughout the entire movie, to where I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, come on!" Um, just that phrase I was saying a lot throughout the movie. But with the points with the camera work and how they kind of approach it and the original idea that they had, I do give kudos to it. But for me, if I'm gonna put a rating on it for just this horror thing, it's gonna be a 6 or 6.5 out of 10 for me. I know you guys hate me. It's fine. Tasha, we'll get hated together.
All right.
I
Sounds
hate
good.
both of you guys.
Yeah, that's all right.
I'm gonna bump up the average score. This is a perfect movie for me. I This is a 10 out of 10 movie for me, like no question. It's my favorite modern horror movie. I think it's in my top 5 horror movies ever. Just everything about it works for me. Like we already talked about the music, the cinematography, the tension building throughout. Um, and like a lot of the scares really worked for me. Like you mentioned it on the top of the house. That one was a little cheesy, but the one where like it walks up the hallway out of the darkness and it's the guy with no eyes, like that was like a very big jump scare for me. Like I thought a lot of the scares were
Sorry, but you just mentioned. I just wanted to acknowledge that this movie doesn't jump scare you with sound. That's all. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Like that's a positive, I think.
I very much enjoy that as well. But the last thing I'll say is like other than the scares and the tension, this movie has a lot of like little scenes and dialogue that like made me like put this meaning into it that I don't know if that's what was intended by the movie or not. But like uh I think it's I can't remember any of the characters' names, but the guy that she has sex with at the end that she actually cares about, he asks her like after the sex, she's like, "Do you feel different?" And she's just kind of like, "You." So it's like I liked that because it's like, I mean, once you like have sex and become an adult, it's like, does it really feel different than when you were a kid? Like, do you feel like a different person? Like I don't know. I'm just putting a lot of philosophical shit into this movie. Apparently, I'm in that kind of headspace right now, but just everything about this movie I just feel like could be interpreted to have some deeper meaning than what the movie like on the surface has. So,
Yes.
this is one of my favorite movies, my favorite horror movies, so I'm done now.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Ready to
All right, I
proceed?
guess we're done with that. Wow, that's a really glowing review, Jake, and I'm really honored that I was able to show it to you, and you like it even more than I do. So that's cool. All right, so the next movie is Honeydew, and that is recommended by our podcast guest Josh. So I will let him summarize this movie.
I'm probably not going to do the greatest summary, so if someone wants to correct me, you can. But I'll start off with just like what Google says. Let's start with Google says. One sentence: strange cravings and hallucinations befall a young couple after seeking shelter in the home of an aging farmer and her peculiar son. So basically, this couple gets lost. The car breaks down, and so they're trying to find help, and they need help because they don't have cell signal or they don't have cell phones to call someone. So they're all like, "Hey, can we use your phone?" Because they find this nearby house with this old couple that comes to help you out, or old couple that they find, and they ask for help, and they're all like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll help you out. Just here's a bed, and we'll take care of you in the process." And it goes on and it goes on. And it gets to a point where they're finding these strange. I don't know. I'm probably not going to even be the best person to explain this. Like honestly, if someone wants to chime in here,
This movie's hard to explain.
I mean, your one sentence thing from Google was honestly all
Yeah.
we need to start talking about the
Yeah.
movie. It's cool.
Well, So, and with that, and I'll just go ahead with like kind of like my take on it. This movie, now I think the ratings weren't really that great for them. Like Rotten Tomatoes 67, IMDb 4.5 out of 10. Now, when it comes to a movie that's horror, thriller, like just with that, I kind of do put it up a little higher than usual for me with this one. As a storyline and answering questions, I don't think it did too well on that part. There were some things like audio was a big thing for this movie. Like there were that whole weird audio the entire time, that clicking, kind of chirping. Like I think that drove how you felt during that journey in the movie, and then at the end, like just I like personally me like I would like hate to go out the way that they did. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
Where they basically find out that their organs harvested for this person or creature or whatever the heck was in the box without limbs or without arms, and like you wake up, you have stitches in your face. It's like literally I'm not sure if I know of a movie that existed of that whole folk tale or that tale that you always hear, like, oh, you're gonna get your organs harvested when you wake up, like there's stitches, like you always hear those jokes and stuff like that, but I don't think there's actually been a movie to kind of like explore that aspect. And when they like wake up and they're like, oh crap, and they're drugged, and they're seeing this dude in the picnic table and in the kitchen in general, where he's just like out of it, and he's got like this gauze wrapped around his face, and like you're trying to like it's creating a ton of questions during the whole movie, and they only answer some of them. They don't really like answer a lot of them, in my perspective. But for leaving me off, like after the movie ended, like I'm still disturbed. Like I'm like I don't feel easy. Like it was a good movie to kind of just let you off. Like things can get horrible for you, and to an extent, and like they don't save the characters. Like, and spoiler alert, like characters die at the end, or they're not saved. And typically you have some type of hope even with the horror movies, like you have a little bit of hope and just a little hint of, oh, horror can continue to happen. This one's just all like, hey, this is a horrible story. It happened, didn't get better. Like it sucks. Deal with it. And it's that whole like making you deal with it after the movie. It's like, man, like I got like some mental stuff in my head to where I'm just like, it's gonna exist if I have like fears or nightmares. Like this movie's going to contribute to it. It's going to contribute to like some of the stuff that I really hope never happens to me to an extent when I'm like waking up, because I always have faith in people. I always try to like if I was in that same situation, stranded, and like I would always give the benefit of the doubt. This movie kind of gives me a little bit of the opposite side. It's just like, look, this can happen. Now, like a scene that bugged me though, with the unanswered questions, when the dude's chilling on the bed and his wife is in the shower and he's like trying to talk to him, they never like solved that he discovered that she wasn't in the shower. They
Wait,
moved
she
on.
wasn't in the shower?
They didn't he didn't that she wasn't in the shower, that she was drugged, because he came. I don't know what was happening at that point. The camera didn't explore like that. He was worried that the shower's been running for a while, and he's like looking up like, hey babe, are you there? It just moves on. It doesn't even like address that she wasn't in the shower. Like at that point, if I were me, I like that would be an alert, big alert. But like the dude's chilling, is still kind of curious this entire time. It's like, oh, I guess she just shower, just likes to run for no freaking reason, and not like I'm like, well, that'd be the big alert right there. I'd be like, okay, I need to get myself out of it. And the movie kind of just let that character just set the scene up for not, I don't know. So that was a big thing for me. It's like if I were in those shoes, like I would be alert right at that point, and I would try to run away and like get out of it. But it just kind of added to it, and I don't know. So that's kind of my choppy way of kind of giving my take on it.
So I thought it was really weird. Sorry, Jake. They took like pictures of them and pretended that they were their children. Because if you saw at the end that they had like this group like whole table full of pictures, and they kept calling them their children, and then
Right.
at the end they's like wanting them to make grandchildren.
True. Yeah. Only
Hmm.
I had two particular points I wanted to make about this movie. Just before I forget them both. One, one thing I like about this movie is that it seems to fall in like almost the torture porn genre without reveling in it. And I enjoyed that it didn't sort of revel in it as much as other movies of that sort of vibe had. So and two, I'm always asking, inside of my head, I'm always asking for new horror concepts. So I can't fault the movie for trying something different. But that being said, not everything about this movie landed well for me, as far as the bizarreness and the pacing and things. In some aspects, I did appreciate and like the film. And in a lot of ways, I didn't. I didn't like the food parts that much because I have this thing where I get really grossed out easily about people eating food and eating things in movies. It's just a thing. It's personal to me, and I won't hold it too much against this movie because it's not, it's not an objective thing. It's more just the way I experience it. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure to quickly make those 2 points at the beginning so I don't forget to make them. But Jake actually looked like he had a point, so I'll pass the torch.
Well, no, I don't want to be overly negative, but I really hated this movie. I like I know you guys are saying that it tried all this new stuff, but for me, this just felt like if like
Sorry.
that A24 hipster horror studio made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre today. Like it just felt like to me it felt like they stole so much from Texas Chainsaw. They didn't acknowledge it and they were presenting it as if it was like brand new stuff. Like for me, the second they walked into the house and the old woman's acting crazy and she's like, "Eat this meat." I'm like, "Oh, it's human meat. Like they're eating people." I'm like, and then at the end they're like, "Oh my God, they're eating people." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I figured that out the second they showed it." Maybe that's just me being cynical, but there was a lot of moments like and then the meat thing and then the reveal of I think it was the opening shot where they showed the kind of bigger guy. He was out hunting and his face was completely covered. And I'm like, oh, they're whoever that guy is. They don't want you to us to know it. And then they show him getting like captured or whatever. And then they showed the fat son with the gauze around him. I'm like, oh, that's the guy from the opening. And then like 40 minutes later, it's like, oh my God, that's the guy from the opening. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, let's just I don't, a lot of that stuff just really didn't work for me. It just felt like if was to me it was obvious they saw Texas Chainsaw, but they like if you're gonna take ideas from that, like acknowledge it and do something past it, which they did a little bit. Like Mike said, I liked how they kind of didn't revel in the gore, like when they're about to do the lobotomy and you think it's gonna be this really gory like special effects thing, they rob you of it because that's when the police sirens come. Like I liked that kind of misdirect, and they did do some stuff different, but for me, just it felt very slow, and they were just like revealing all of this stuff that to me was obvious. I don't know if I was just really in tune and like really perceptive this time, or if it really is just these tropes that I don't like.
Yeah,
Am I
no.
crazy? I feel like
No,
it was
I
just very
realized all
easy to
that stuff like on the way. Like there was, yeah, I definitely. By the way, I already knew you were gonna like not like this one before I even watched it because Tasha let me know that Mike let her know that you guys did not did not enjoy this one. I didn't think about Texas Chainsaw that much, but to be fair, I haven't seen it that many times because I'm not a huge fan of Texas Chainsaw. So that's so that I could see now that you point it out, I can see how some of it was borrowed, from that. For me, I get a completely different vibe from this movie than I do from Texas Chainsaw. Like they're both going for the out of place feel, but I feel like this one's going more in the bizarre direction rather than the I guess torturous direction. I don't know how to explain it, but to me it feels like a slightly different tone. And for me it's different enough, tone-wise, to feel like a different movie. But I completely think that your experience is valid and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no. I mean, I didn't think of it either, to be honest.
yeah.
I don't know,
But-
that just made me angry.
Yeah, I did realize a lot of those plot things you were saying. Like I was thinking that it was human meat as well, and yeah, and I did make the connection between the masked man from the beginning and the
Oh,
guy
yeah.
that was there, and yeah, I didn't need the flashback. I thought that the film in some aspects treats you, not like that you're very smart, I guess, in some aspects, because it reminds you and it just lets you know. But really, this film is not going to appeal to, a lot of people who would maybe be confused by that. And I'm not trying to be like pretentious or elitist or anything film wise or anything, but I think that's just the reality of the size and scope of this movie. That it's mainly probably going to be viewed by people who will understand that sequence, or maybe they had bigger dreams when they made the movie and they wanted to make it more clear. But I did find that it was a little insulting, and sometimes that they would just spell, like, I knew, for example, that, like, I didn't need that exit shot where he was building the box to know that he was getting a box, that type of thing, because they had already chopped his limbs off and she had a box, we had already seen him building that earlier too, and they kept kind of going back to it, and they treat it like it's this big reveal that he's like building a box for that guy too. And I was just like, I mean, I already kind of knew that from when he was sawing, and it tries to make you think that he's sawing somebody's limb off or something, but he's just sawing like parts of the box. But anyways, yeah, I think this was made by Steven Spielberg's son too, by the way.
He played the main guy,
Oh,
like
right,
Sam.
right. That's so interesting. I thought the acting was pretty good, though. I think that like the performances were all right. But honestly, I didn't like the characters that much. But I thought that
I hated them.
Yeah, I didn't like
I
them
thought
either.
the actors did well portraying what was in the script, and they were convincing. Like, I believed that this guy had this personality and this girl had this personality. But first of all, the couple was not very close. They almost seemed like that they were on the brink of breaking up a lot. And I couldn't relate to either one of them in any way. I didn't really like either one of them. I didn't really care whether they lived or died that much in, viewing the movie, but
Yeah, Riley, I think the girl's name, she was just so rude and nosy. Like this crazy woman invites you into her house and she's like, "Oh, I'm a vegetarian, if you can believe it." I'm like, "You stupid bitch, shut the hell up." God, you're so obnoxious.
You can just eat the green beans and shut the fuck up. You don't have to eat the meat.
And then she's like asking this woman like, "Have you eaten the Sortico? Have you been affected by it?" And it's like, don't ask this, like, that's personal. Or like it just felt like she was very like she was asking questions a normal person
Well-
wouldn't in like for somebody that they've never met before, you know?
Yeah, I did feel that
Well,
way
her
as well.
tone when she was telling her that Sam couldn't have like the red meat and stuff because his cholesterol, it was in such a bitchy way. He can't have it.
I have said that to my mic before. Like not about red meat, but like stuff like that. And I'm like, well, okay, that part's believable.
Oh, no, we're hearing the other side of
I'm
it.
having fun. Like you guys gave great points. Like, and honestly, I do agree with some of it. Now with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm with Mike's boat. I haven't seen it enough to kind of pick up on the copying and doing and the duplications of all that. But what my thing is, what saved the movie was the eeriness that they did for me in that whole in the situations, because like I don't really care about the characters itself. Like the movie didn't really sell that at all, but it was just I don't know if I always have this tendency to like put myself in their shoes, and like I know who I am. Like I don't like even if I hate these people in this movie. Like if I was in this position, God, that would just suck. And it was that whole, and it's like the Saw movies too, just that whole torture, like, and I've got that same type of feeling, like that, man, if I woke up and I have to saw my freaking leg off because some clown over here is trying to play games with me, I really hope this doesn't work. Or I really hope this doesn't happen. And so, like, that's where I get, and I guess this is where I like that whole torture porn. Maybe that is what is my category of like scary movie that gets me enough to where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I feel like I can always defend myself in the real world, but when there's situations that like can possibly happen to where like I'm not, like there was no chance for me to defend myself, and it's whole giving up because like the movie and like
You're essentially dead.
always trying to like find that hope.
Well, it's like worse than death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like worse than being dead is
yeah,
losing yourself and kind of still being yourself.
And you're just in this.
Exactly.
You're basically in hell because you're just being tortured for like. I'm sure they'll live for like 20 or 30 more years. Well, those old people will die in like 5 years actually, so they'll be dead in 6 years.
Exactly. And I think that's what me the most is like, if I had the opportunity, I would just kill myself. I'd be like, I'm getting out of this. Like, goodbye. But like, if you're preventing me from even doing that, like that is the pure torture and horror for me in like my perspective. I'm just like, no, because I always feel like I have control of my real world. And, like I know what to do, and like I'm always overthinking things and always like making sure whatever step I'm doing here, like I'm making like I don't know if it's the Boy Scout thing of like being prepared and not trying to get screwed over when you're lost in the middle of the woods or anything like that, like what to do, the next steps. But like when all of those options are getting removed and you're like up to these just psychotic couple that's just into this hardcore God religion, like this is just you're the sacrifice to our family and God, like, and that whole thing scared the hell out of me too. So that's where it got me. But as a movie quality and like putting it together, yeah, it's not good. But just trying to like go past that, like I always have a tendency just to put myself in the shoes instead of just learning to love the character. For this one, this is where I'm coming from in that perspective. But I agree with a lot of the points that you guys are making though too. So it's a weird mixed conflict of feelings.
Can we all just acknowledge that it's super rude if someone's like sleeping to just be like, you have to leave, knowing that they're just gonna leave in the morning anyways?
Yeah, like
I just thought it was a dick move.
I guess that it's like in Texas Chainsaw, like how they trap them, because in Texas Chainsaw they mark the van and send them on, and then this one he killed the van and sent them on to the house. Anyway, like to Josh's point about like putting yourself in the shoes of the characters, I did to a point, but it was like 15 minutes into this movie, that's where I would have left. If it was me, I would not have gone into the crazy woman's home. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I agree with that heart.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been really funny if it just ended there, where they were just like, okay, thanks anyways, bye. She's like, what? You just said that you needed your phone. Like, that's okay, never mind.
And yeah, I don't know if I like that whole scene where like the cops come. Like they do come, they give you that hope, but then it's just like this old lady was able to just sweet talk these cops, and I mean, God, what a horrible police department in that area. First of all, like I don't know, I feel like that just kind of made me furious. Like I really hope in reality that doesn't happen.
Well,
but
okay,
who knows?
last thing I will say about Texas Chainsaw and this movie. The climax of both movies is the main characters being drugged and waking up in the middle of a very awkward, torturous dinner scene that goes on forever. So, anyway.
Yeah, I need to watch that movie again then. And it's been too long. Literally, probably around 20 years, honestly.
Maybe it's just paying
I love
respect.
Texas Chainsaw though, so I'm kind of biased. I think that's why this made me so mad.
Yeah, big true. Big true. And audience, in case you're wondering why Tosh isn't talking, she had to go do something for Molly super quick, so we're just gonna keep rolling live. But anyways, Yeah.
Want to ratings real quick while we're waiting on her?
Well, no, because then she can't rate. But I was gonna.
Okay, go ahead.
No, it's cool. We can do that.
If you have more to say, I didn't know if she would be back by the time we finished our ratings.
Yeah. No. Well, I did want to say that the I didn't fully understand the how they got the traps working the way they did. It's pretty high tech. Maybe they're using a Raspberry Pi or something. But when the bear traps were going off, and then the light would turn on, I'm just like, there's wiring. Where's the wiring at? Like,
Like they have these motion sensor cameras like hundreds of yards from their home.
yeah, I'm just thinking of these fucking like high tech wires that you'd have to run to achieve what they did, and I was like, press X to doubt on whether these two crazy old people can can achieve this feat. But
Those
yeah,
are great good points. Yeah.
One nitpick that really bothered me in this movie was it was at the very beginning when Riley, the main girl, she's watching this video on Sortico in her car, but she's holding it in portrait mode, and like the video's little tiny on the screen, and I'm like, see, I
no
feel like
one
that was
watches
just
their phone like that.
so I'm like,
Judging.
just, I feel like it was a mistake on the filmmaker. They were just like, all right, you're watching a movie on your phone, and didn't tell her like, no, turn it landscape because that's how people watch videos on their phone. Like that just I was like, "Oh my God, why are you doing this?" It just
Yeah,
made me so angry.
I don't know how that happened. Like, who didn't know? I guess we're assuming that the actress didn't know, or I wonder if the director literally told her to watch it wrong like that because they wanted to portray her as like a low tech savvy person. But then, like, can we all acknowledge
That's
too that his battery was like, I think it was like pretty high, like 50% or 60%. And then they go in. He's got it on low power mode. He's got all his apps closed. So he like made sure. But then it was like dead when he like tried to call the police. But the way that he explained the situation, I cannot believe that the police just left like that. Like they were able to convince the police to just leave. I guess, especially considering his phone didn't die until after he'd given a lot of the context. So I was just like, okay. At least in the babysitter, they just have them kill the police, but we'll get into that one later.
Are y'all ready?
yeah, and I mean,
Oh, sorry.
I don't know with my perspective because like with this past year, my appendix burst. I was in the hospital. They cut into me and shit, and this might be the reason why this movie is like talked too much because like just like the dude like couldn't freaking run or like move at all, and he was limping. I was like, it doesn't look that bad, but like, man, if that literally just happened, like I totally get it completely. And that was the other thing that like kind of spoke to me to an extent. It's like when you're getting like any body part removed, 'cause, yeah, I got my appendix removed and got all that kind of crap, and like I couldn't move at all for like 2 to 3 weeks at all. And this dude the next day is like trying to save his wife or trying to do anything like that, like and just like even search for dear life, even if it's that important, like it's literally impossible to like try to like get enough adrenaline to get yourself out of that situation. That was another thing that kind of like came to me specifically and kind of where I'm coming from with that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if I can start off the rating for myself,
Yeah, go ahead. Perfect.
I'm gonna put it movie quality like 4 or 5 out of 10 for just setup everything like that. Horror stuff, personally, like it's a 7. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for me. But yeah, that's me.
Okay.
Jake?
I guess a 3 out of 10. Like I feel like that's the lowest I've ever given. I just like I said, I think it's me putting it into it. I just felt like this movie borrowed too much from Texas Chainsaw without kind of acknowledging the history of it. It just treated the audience like they had never heard of Texas Chainsaw, which it sounds like I mean, I know you guys have seen it, but it sounds like I guess you didn't make the same connections I did. So I feel like if I would like this movie better if I hadn't seen Texas Chainsaw like as much as I have. I
Mm.
think I like that story or that vibe of movie where you're kind of like an outsider on somebody's property because in in reality that's one of my biggest fears in life is like that type of thing where you're in the middle of nowhere and then stumble on these crazy people and they torture you and kill you. That's to me that feels like a realistic thing that could happen. So that's my own personal thing, like fear. So in theory, this movie should work really well for me, but it's just the slow pacing, the lack of character development, and just the fact that I it felt like I had seen it all before in other movies. It really didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I think we're all from West Virginia, so that's why we think it's pretty realistic. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's the thing. Tasha, would you like to go, or would you like me to go?
You can go. That's fine.
Okay, I'm gonna give it. I was teetering between 4 and 5, but I liked it pretty good, so I think I'm gonna give it a 5. And just say that I respect the movie for trying to do something different, and I don't know. I look forward to other pieces of art that the same sort of creative minds that did this did. Not everything landed well for me, and I think that there's a lot of improvements that could be made. But you know what? I don't regret the time that I spent with this movie. I don't think that I'll rewatch it, but I don't feel like that it was a waste of my life or anything. So 5 out of 10.
Okay, I'm also going to give it a 5 out of 10. I feel like, the weirdness, it kept me interested. Wish they answered a little more than what they did. So that's, um, like I said, I didn't like the characters at all. So, but yeah, 5 out of 10. All right.
Okay. Well, I'll transition us into the babysitter. Jake, you're going to do the synopsis, but I just want to let you guys know I'm going to grab a beer super quick, but by the time Jake's done with the synopsis, I paid really, really close attention to this one, so I don't need that, and I'll be right back.
My synopsis is going to be really short because basically this movie there's a like a 12 or 13-year-old kid named Cole who he's at that age where he kind of needs a babysitter but he's kind of probably doesn't. And he's just kind of this bullied kid that is having issues making friends, and his babysitter is really his only friend, and they have this really nice rapport. But it turns out she's like a Satan worship, or she's part of a death cult. So basically, they sacrifice an innocent person, and then everyone at the ceremony gets like their wildest dream come true. And she needs the blood of Cole, the little kid. And Cole finds out, and then it's basically just him trying to escape with his life and stop B, the babysitter, from uh, killing more people. And I guess he's successful. There is a sequel, but I won't talk about that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's
So what's your take on it?
this is one of those movies where in my memory it's way better than it actually is. Like I watched this like a year or so ago when it was relatively new, and I remember liking it, but in my memory I'm like, oh, that was a really funny like horror comedy. But watching it now, I'm like, oh, a lot of these jokes are really stupid and they don't work. I don't I did not like it as much this time watching it as I did the first time.
This was the first time that I saw it this
Yes.
time, so
Same.
it landed pretty well for me. It might have just been the mood that I was in yesterday when I watched it, but it was just what the doctor ordered. It was funny when it wanted to be funny. I loved this, for example, I loved when the chick gets shot in the boob and she flies across the room. It was like scary movie style, especially when like he was trying to legitimately defend himself against her, and so he like presses on her wound, which happened to be on her boob, and she was like,
Yeah.
"I've never felt so violated in my life." Like she like that. I was like, I don't know, like that shit
Try
was
to kill me
cash.
or something.
Yeah, that shit was cash. I loved that shit. And also, like
That's good.
he gets hit by an explosion so much that it like makes him fly through the air, but he's like not. He doesn't. He just gets right up and he can hear. He can. Everything's fine, even though the fire literally touched him from the explosion. So that was funny. Um,
It's
How about you?
yeah, Tasha, go
Sorry.
ahead.
I'm gonna be honest. I was not a fan. Sorry, Jake.
Didn't figure you would like this one, honestly.
Yeah,
you
I'm
didn't
not
like the
much
camp?
into comedy.
I liked the campy. I thought like some campy movies suck, but I gotta say I think I just have a special place in my heart for campy horror because if you guys remember in the past, like You Might Be the Killer and what was it,
Zombievers.
Zombievers and stuff. I always overrate all those movies because they're like just my thing. But yeah, I loved it. In fact, if I plan on watching the sequel probably in the next couple days. That is fairly new that Netflix has been advertising. Killer Queens or
See,
whatever.
the sequel is good. It's if you liked this one, you'll like the second one. I think
Okay,
it hits a lot of the same beats. We watched that recently.
cool.
I think with me, it gets challenging when I don't know. I mean, yeah, when the title is called The Babysitter, I should be a little bit more on it for that. But when I don't know it's supposed to be a funny, because in my perspective, it's supposed to be like a campy, kind of satirical horror film. When I don't know that's happening and I'm experiencing it, I'm in this weird headspace to where like I'm either judging just hard or because in like with Jake, like how you were saying, it kind of felt like they were trying too hard again, and it was just this whole like I can spell out every single step you're trying to
Yeah.
do here. Like, okay, you're gonna do this joke. Oh, is that gonna happen? Okay, well it did, and so it's just like you can always predict what they're doing, and this like so yeah. Honestly, for me, this is one that they were trying, but it didn't really land for me at all. For trying to make me kind of like to sell the movie for me. It was one of those where like they just yeah, it would kind of suck, but like this kid in my perspective, that was I just he was liking his babysitter, like he was either like he was kind of infatuated with her, like it's like maybe she could be my future love or my future whatever, and she's kind of enticing into that and kind of giving that trust, and there's like this whole thing, and then he's peeping from upstairs, like looking down, and she's doing some things with this other dude, and then suddenly stab, and then the movie goes like, oh crap, things are real, and I don't know. I feel like it's the
What did you
template's been used so
what did
much,
you guys think
and
of that like that
what's up?
shift when she stabs the virgin guy in the head? Did like were you blind going in? Did you know that that turn was coming or like how did
No.
that work for you
I
guys?
didn't know it was coming,
Well,
but I figured it out anyways. Like for sure, as soon as the
yeah,
dare happened, I knew that's what was going to happen because it was going around to him.
yeah. When
He
it,
had stated that he didn't know them, and I was like, "Yep, that's what's happening." Because the synopsis said that it was a cult,
exactly.
so I was like, "Okay, what so bad that they're going to do?" And I'm like, "They're going to kill this guy." So yeah,
I didn't read the synopsis,
Yeah,
so I didn't
and the
know.
thing is, I never even like read the synopsis, and you got this. I was like, hey, things are pretty hot and heavy here, like with this movie. It's like, man, like it's been great to be this kid, and then suddenly, like, it's just like, oh shit, like your feelings betrayed you here, man. What are you gonna do? You gotta run now. And he's like, oh crap. And so again, I don't know. I do appreciate like with my perspective with these movies and stuff. I'm coming from like I don't read anything about them. I don't know anything, and so like coming in without any type of like um former knowledge about the movie, like it does put me in this space to where again, like I'm trying to put myself in the shoes. And like I remember as a kid or a teenager, like hormones are running, you're falling in love with anybody that's nice to you or whatever, and like you're coming through, and then like you're betrayed a little bit, and you're like, oh crap, like how am I gonna get out of this? And so things got real, and it kind of went from that 0 to 100
Zero to
again, and
hero.
again, it's
Yeah,
like my point
I
betrayed
love
me
the
again.
like when they do the in that scene when they do the pan around the room of there's when they introduce all of like the people in the cult and it's like the jock and the cheerleader and then it pans to that really dorky guy. I just busted out laughing. I was like, okay, like that guy's not meant to be here. Like I just loved that juxtaposition of like these horror tropes and then this just really like shimpy looking guy.
Yeah, I
Well, I knew
also loved that
from the
like
start.
the first thing the kid asks when he wakes up is why doesn't he have a shirt? That's what I was
Well,
thinking as an audience member too. So I was like, he read my fucking mind right there.
well, just from the start of the movie, like I got turned off by. Well, you got the YouTube star that's like one of the characters, and I'm like, well, okay, so it's not a very serious movie, obviously. He's a part of it, and then you got the girl. I don't remember any of their names. The Disney Channel, like she got like really famous Disney Channel, and she's been through some stuff in the news. And I was like, oh, it doesn't really take things seriously either. So I knew too much background behind the actors to where I was like, oh, okay, so not serious, or even if they're trying, like I'm already having this bias behind them, and to where it was kind of just a no-show even in the beginning, to where I was just like, okay, I'm not going to really take this seriously, and I was kind of already expecting things in the beginning there, but
Yeah, the
I don't know if it's
the humor in this
Yeah,
movie
that's
is
my
very hit or miss. Like there's some fantastic jokes that really work for me. Like I think one of my favorite part is when they tie up Cole and he's like trying to stealthily cut the rope with the knife,
They
and then
can
it's
see
just
him.
the reveal that's like we can see you cutting it because we have a mirror right behind you. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was so funny.
Yeah, and then he keeps doing it, and she keeps making fun of him for doing it. Yeah, that hit well. I
But like
honestly, go ahead.
I was gonna say, there's stuff like that that works really well, but then there's other stuff like basically I forget the black guy's name, but basically everything he says, I'm like it just felt like a really bad take on like scary movie. Like I just thought everything he said was super obnoxious and just not funny. He did not work as a character for me.
I agree.
But what were you
Yeah,
saying, Mike?
I thought some of his stuff was, but some of my favorite parts were like when the one like the dude without the shirt was like telling him to go stick up for himself, even though he was about to strangle him to death, and he was like, "I'm not even here for this cult shit. I just want to murder people." Uh,
Yeah,
he's like, "I don't
I
even have
like
a
that
wish."
dynamic. I
It-
like that dynamic of like I think Max was the shirtless guy's name, but he's like basically like trying to kill him, but also like motivating him and trying to be like a big brother friend to him at the
Yeah,
same
it's like,
time.
why are you trying to get him to overcome this bully when he's literally about to fade into the nothingness anyways? Because you're choking him to death. Doesn't make any sense. But it's like I said, it's a funny movie, so it doesn't have to make sense. It's okay. It's all right. I give it a pass because it's funny. Those spiders were way too big, by the way. Like it pulled me out. Like I was like, it's rare to see spiders that are that massive. And like this movie, I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong. I'm not a spider expert, but I've never seen that many spiders that are like bigger than your palm
They're like
walking around.
tarantula.
Yeah, they're like tarantulas.
Yeah, but there's tons of tarantulas. Does people have that many tarantulas under their house?
I've never seen one in the wild. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they're in like Australia or something.
They might be living like Arizona or something, like
Yeah.
a deserty area.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. And when the when the Asian chick gets blown up, that part's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was like all the deaths are pretty good. Like the black guy I mentioned, like when he falls down the stairs and gets impaled on like that really sharp award. I thought that was like a good kill. It
Yeah,
wasn't funny, but it was cool.
it was funny to me because the where I work like likes to give awards of that exact shape and size. So I have some of those. So that made me laugh pretty good actually. But it wasn't the movie's like strength that it made me laugh. It was just really relatable for me. Yeah. Stabby, stabby. And
It wa-
Whose movie was this? Jake's?
yeah, this was
Yeah,
mine.
Jake's.
this was Jake's wreck. One.
Are we ready for rating?
The last thing I want to say, like one praise I will give for this movie is watching it again. I noticed they set up pretty much everything in this movie early on, which I appreciated. Like they set up like that the very first shot is that Cole's afraid of needles when he's visiting the school nurse, and then like he's freaking out when B's taking his blood for the ritual later, or like when he's in the kitchen and the dad puts the knife in the dishwasher, and then Cole tries to grab it later, or just B telling Cole to kick somebody in the nuts if they're messing with him, and that's what he does to the shirtless guy. I think. I think that's
Yeah.
how he like gets the shirtless guy in the end. But like I appreciated that this movie had a lot of like setup and payoff. Like it, as like ridiculous as this movie was, it felt like structurally it worked. Like it was very balanced in that way.
Yeah, at the beginning, before the cult stuff happened, though, I was thinking about like how strange the relationship was. Like I was almost thinking like this. I think more people would think this is strange if they flipped the characters to where the babysitter was a guy and
Oh yeah.
the little boy was a girl. So I was like, huh. I guess everybody's kind
Very
of
good.
fine with this because but I don't know.
I
It felt. I mean, I know she was being nice, but to me, the tone of it like felt flirtatious. But I don't know. Maybe it wasn't the case. Maybe she was just putting out those vibes to him, like just to be a mentor. But I don't know. I just felt that way, and I just wanted to acknowledge those feelings and talk about them.
Well,
I guess.
she
yeah.
might be trying to
Oh,
boost his confidence as an early
exactly.
teenage boy.
Yeah, maybe it might be a non
Exactly. That's
creepy.
where I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, the rapport between Cole and B, I just it felt very overwritten like Juno, where it was like nobody actually talks like that, and like
Yeah.
nobody like talks in these movie quips and movie references, but like it just felt very warm, and I was like I really want both. Like I don't like the first 20 minutes I was like I really like these characters.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I felt the same way. So,
Yeah, I had a little bit of cynicism. I felt like she's just trying to play this dude and just trying to like earn his
Well, she
trust
was.
and be able exactly.
yeah,
So I
you
think that
were
was the
right.
whole like for
You
me
were,
like there was no I really care about you or anything like that. Like no, like I played you, like and you fell for it, and you're the kid doesn't know exactly how to kind of go through all of these experiences. So like she took advantage of it, and that was his whole. She took advantage of his whole like whole where he was at in his life. Like he had no idea. So I mean that's where I'm coming from with that. But yeah, no, he got played, and he's just trying to save his life at that point because he found out. Yep.
Yeah, I don't have anything else really, unless anybody else does. We can go into the ratings.
go
All right,
ahead.
go ahead, Jake.
Um, See, so this was my recommendation. I'm gonna do a 7 out of 10. I think I- we've I've watched this movie I think 2 or 3 times at this point. So like I like it, and I'll probably watch it periodically, like throughout. Like I enjoyed it enough for that, but it really doesn't hold up to rewatches very well. Like the comedy of it does not hold up for rewatches, and it's a lot of it feels very cheesy and forced in a way. But then there's a lot of like really funny jokes that work every time. Like one I forgot to mention was, I think it was Cole or the girl, like the younger girl he was friends with. One of them was like, "Yeah, my dad lets me drink Mike's all the time." Like just trying to sound really cool, like you're a
Oh yeah.
badass and you're drinking alcohol
And she was
when
like,
you're like 12 years old.
cool. Yeah.
Um,
That's yeah. Yep.
like so there is some like observational humor that like about just being that kind of 12 to 13-year-old kid that works really well. And some of like the horror works pretty well, like when he's running from Max and he's kind of trying to get out from under the house. Like there's some like decent suspense horror type stuff in this movie, but it's not like an amazing masterpiece of like comedy horror. It's like it's up slightly above average, so 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah. I have you inspired me to mention a few things on my review, but I'll save it. If you want to go first, Josh, I'll do mine afterwards.
Sure. Um, I'm not gonna put it that high. I'm I'm indifferent. Um, I'm really gonna just give it like a kind of a. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 for me. Just it really didn't land a lot of things for what I was kind of looking for. But again, this could be just my perspective and just not knowing and preparing myself to watch a movie that was supposed to be satirical.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, 4 out of 10 because I thought trying too much and things I could already predict, and there's not a lot of like adventure at all for me in going through that movie. So yeah, 4 out of 10.
Okay. Man, Josh did not like this one. It's all good though, man. I'm actually gonna give it a 7. I really liked it. It was one of it was one of the best 7s that I've rated. I just can't give it like an 8, the same as like It Follows or something. It's just not same tier for me. But I feel like one thing that I didn't mention was that the one scene uh, where he's in the other girl's house that likes him, that's his age. I felt like that whole sequence is kind of tacked on, and I don't really feel like it adds anything other than a studio exec said that there has to be some sort of romance or love story in the movie. So they kind of put that in there. But for me, if I like took this in a Premiere Pro or something and edited it out like that, I think it would be a better movie. Like I think if her character was not in the movie, it would be a better one. Nothing against the actress, nothing like that. She did great with the part, but it was just like for me, it added zero value to the movie. And I know it's a coming of age story, so you could kind of loosely associate it with like, oh, he had the courage and he like, gave her a kiss and stuff, and they kind of hid, and they had that cliche sequence that took itself too seriously, where she was looking for them. I don't know. I just felt like that whole scene was a drag compared to the rest of the movie, but otherwise, I think it's cool. One of my favorite moments, honestly, is when they build up literally her dad was the funniest part because the fact that he took her dad's car and crashed it into the house was a bigger payoff than his relationship with the little girl. Like if he was just some dick that drove by the school every day on his way home from work and she didn't exist, then it would still be better because him existing added to the movie because of that punchline in the end. But yeah, and the bully, I guess, was kind of. I mean, that was kind of funny, but I don't think any of the jokes really that they made with the bully there was really all that funny. So it kind of didn't really add anything on that either. So lots of points on my review, kind of tagged on there, but 7 out of 10.
Okay, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I didn't hate it, but I'm not big on like comedy horror. I mean, there's only a few that I like. A lot of the characters kind of got on my nerves. I mean, I liked, the bond that Bee and Cole had, but other than that, the other characters got on my nerves, and yeah, it's a 5.
Okay. Jake, do you look like you wanted to add something when I was reviewing before we transition? Did you want to say anything else? Or?
The only thing I forgot to mention was like just like a plot thing was at the very end. Like on the surface, Cole drove a car through a house and killed his babysitter. Shouldn't he be like in trouble with the law for that at the end? Like unless Bee's body like disappeared because she's the devil or something, but they don't really explain that. I'm like Cole should be in trouble.
But these people tried to kill him, though. There's like bodies like
It
this.
would be self-defense.
Well, no, I don't think that
I guess.
because he's already gotten away when he gets in the car. So I don't think that.
But
But I
if
also
he,
don't
like-
think that they would like heavily prosecute him because of the situation that he went through leading up to it. That's just my opinion, but
But he did crash through the house and like basically probably ruined all the evidence as well.
that's true. And they'd
And he-
probably be mad because there's some dead cops and where the crime scene got like effed up. Yeah, because he drove he thought he was playing Hot Wheels and he drove a car through the wall.
Like I'm not really mad at that, but I'm just like if I can think of a nitpick, I'm just from a plot hole, I'm like that there needs to be more explanation to that ending.
Yeah, well, it's a comedy, but I get you. Yeah, that's a really valid.
All right.
All right, let's transition. So let's talk about the other horror things that we experienced this month. Jake, you said you had something at the beginning. I would love to hear it.
Yeah, did any of you guys watch Fear Street on Netflix? It's like a trilogy of movies that just came out.
No, but I've been wanting to.
Oh,
How is it?
I watched, well, the first two are out. The third one comes out
I think
next
toward
week
the
as
end.
of
I think toward the end of the month. They're actually based on books because my mom grew up reading them when she was like
Mm.
a teenager.
Yeah, I know it was like it's an R.L. Stein
Yep.
or like I
Yep.
don't know if these specific stories were books or not, but
I don't
like
think so.
hmm.
but it
Oh, Goosebumps
yeah,
author?
it's
Yeah, the Goosebump Arthur, yeah. But this was like his
You just-
first series before Goosebumps.
Okay.
but it like I went into the first one expecting that kind of like more Stranger Things, like kidified horror. It really wasn't that. Like I didn't really love the first movie, but the second one was really fun.
Okay.
And it has the first one has Robin from Stranger Things in it, and the second one has Max, the redhead girl from Stranger Things in it. And the second one was really fun. I enjoyed that one a lot more. But
And then, oh,
yeah, the second one just came out on Friday, I
Friday.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
oh, cool.
Interesting.
I'd
Yeah, I'll go.
recommend it. The first one's set in the 90s, but it kind of bummed me out that I was expecting it to be like a Stranger Things level of nostalgia, but no, there was like maybe two references and then they played some 90s songs and it's like fuck you. Here's your 90s. I was kind of let down by the first one, but the second one was really good.
Wasn't the second one like in the 70s, late
hmm
70s?
Yep. And then the last one's in like the 1600s, so I probably am gonna hate it because I hate period
He
piece
loves
movies.
that period.
But I'm gonna see it through to the end because it does have like a story kind of overlapping all three movies. So I'd recommend those. I'm having fun with them. And also we finished Haunting of Hill House from the Halloween Horror Nights house announcement, and I really enjoyed it this time. I tried to
Yes.
watch it like a year or so ago, and I wasn't into it. The the story's good. It's a stone cold bummer, but it's like a good story, and I like the characters. And I don't know if I was just not prepared for it, but the jump scares in this were amazing. Some of the best jump
Yes.
scares I've ever had were during this show.
Yeah. Josh, I know you haven't seen it. I was actually thinking about proposing an idea of rather like that we almost do a buy month where instead of four movies, we talk about the entirety of Haunting of Hill House. I'd be into that. But, Tasha
Yeah.
probably. Okay.
I don't mind.
I didn't know you'd be open to the idea, but
I've been wanting to rewatch it.
yeah, because like there's so many. Like the thing is, it could fill up its own podcast episode because there's so many details throughout the whole show, like to talk about. I don't know if you guys are open to it. I have a recommendation ready, and you guys are fully able to say no if you want to. It's up
I've
to
been
you.
wanting to rewatch it before Horror Nights, anyways. But it's
Yeah,
up to Jake
and we still
Josh.
will. We still will either way.
Yeah.
But I love that show so much, and I would love to talk about it with you guys.
I would leave it up to Josh because I mean I've already watched it, but it's like 8 or 9 hours worth of stuff to watch. Like
Yeah.
that's my
It's
only
about the
thing
same
of
as
like
four
why
movies.
That's no.
we. Yeah.
I'm down. Honestly, though, with the middle of summer, everything going on, like end of September would be the time that I probably would be available to do that. Well, you said 9 hours?
It's eight
How many
episodes,
movies
right?
is
Or
this?
nine? Eight
I
or
think
nine?
it's
I don't
9.
remember.
Episodes or movies?
Episodes, but the episodes are like 50 minutes long.
45 minutes each, I think.
All right.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really
no,
honestly don't
no,
think it's that much more time than four movies were, though.
Yeah, even if it is, it's fine. Just if we're talking about schedule and stuff. Yeah,
I mean, we
September.
could take the month of
Let's go
August.
ahead.
Yeah, like let's do our Rex then this time, and then you can come back for the Haunting of Hill House episode, and that's when we'll talk about Haunting of Hill House.
Which will be back from Orlando anyways,
Oh.
too, so we could add
Yeah, we
that
could
in.
add like whether the house is good around it too.
So that'll be their like mid to late September episode.
Yeah, that'll be like our pre-Halloween episode.
Okay.
That would work. Okay.
That'd be perfect.
Sounds
Kind
good.
of going into the month of October kind of
Okay.
episode. So.
That works.
Yeah, cool. We're planning live. The audience is like hearing us come up with the plans, but that's cool.
Alright,
Is it any other horror
yeah.
stuff like this? I think this is one of the most interesting sections, honestly.
I think we had talked off air a little bit about the Conjuring or the third
Yeah, the
Conjuring
third
movie.
Yeah.
one.
Yes.
You
Have
guys want to
seen
talk
it,
about that?
Josh?
Yeah, I would love to.
I have not seen it. No.
Okay. Well, I won't spoil it then, but basically, I loved the villain of that one. I felt like that the new presence of like the demon follower. She died, but she was. I thought she was a good new addition to the universe. You know, it wasn't to me. It wasn't that silly that she had her little Horcrux looking thing that was cursing people that she would put in people's crawl space and stuff. So yeah, no, it was. That's not really a spoiler because like you know that it's a demonic when they find it. So, yeah, that's. I thought that the whole movie was. It wasn't up to James Wan standard, but it was pretty good. It was better than I expected it to be, given that it was not directed by James Wan.
Definitely better than the trailer that showed.
Yeah, the trailer and the title had me really
Skip.
skeptic. I was really pessimistic that this one was gonna suck really bad, but it didn't. I didn't think it did. I'll have to rewatch it again. We saw it together in IMAX, and we really thought that the sound and the visuals and everything was just pretty good. I don't know what I would give it out of 10. Maybe we'll talk
I
about it
want
in
to
a future
rewatch
episode.
it
Yeah.
eventually.
I tend to skew my rating higher when I just saw it in theaters because the theater experience is different than the home experience, and I feel like I'm not as objective when I watch it in theater. It's more of a spectacle, and I'm like more,
Yeah,
lenient, I guess, when I see it in the theater.
Yeah, we watched it on HBO Max at home, so I like paused it and like went and made popcorn and like had a drink. Like so I kept stopping it and coming back. So I probably didn't give it its fair shake, but it's to me this whole like style of movie just it feels like a Marvel movie at this point in just that it's so played out and they've done it too much. Like I just feel like we need to find the next like horror. I feel like the demon possession thing is played out, and we need to find whatever the next horror like style is. I
How many movies is out there right now for Conjuring?
Well, Conjuring
How many
itself
what?
is 3, but if you count Annabelle and all of them, it will be probably about
Yeah.
close to 10, I would think, if you count the Annabelles.
yeah like
Okay.
well, I count like the Ouija, like all those I know they're not by the same studio, but all those Blumhouse type of movies,
Well,
like the demon Blumhouse
Insidious
movies.
and whatnot. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, any other ones, or do you guys want to move on to recommendations now?
We can move on.
This
I'm
has
good.
actually
That was
been one
all
of
I
the-
had.
This has actually been one of the longer episodes. We've been rolling for an hour and 42 minutes, so we got a lot of content for the viewers. So that's cool. But yeah, just letting you know. It flew by for me, but I guess I'll do my rec first. I have recommended a serious movie last month, It Follows, and this time I'm going to recommend a more campy, fun summertime movie. It's called Final Girl. It came out in 2015, and I believe I told Jake about it, or maybe he found it on his own, but I think he's seen it as well, and I would love to rewatch it. It's been years and years since I saw it, but the first time I really liked it, so it's a little bit of a spoiler for next episode, but we'll see whether it holds up.
It's Final Girl or Final Girls plural?
Single.
Final Girl.
Okay, the one I'm thinking of is plural.
Well, this is
Final
single.
Girls.
This we've
Okay, so-
seen this on Netflix.
Yeah, I
was it?
think we might have accidentally found it because maybe we were looking for Final Girls, but Final Girl from 2015 is if you don't remember like headlights and fog, that's all I'll give you because it's like the big thing that sticks out in the movie, headlights and fog.
Okay, I take back my fist bump pending a watch of this movie.
Okay, all right. And then
Anyway,
Tasha, if you want to do yours
Tasha.
next. Josh, if you're not coming next month, you don't get a wreck. Screw you. I'm just kidding. We'll watch it.
Okay. All right. Good.
I keep going back and forth. So I think I'm just gonna do something ballsy. So I think I'm gonna do Southbound for my next rec. I was
I
gonna
love
do
Southbound.
I was gonna do the fourth Nightmare on Elm Street, but I was like, we can come back to that. So we're gonna do something different.
Jake, have you
Never-
seen
I
Southbound?
never heard of that one.
It's another anthology.
Yeah, it's like Trick or
Oh,
Treat.
okay.
It's like an anthology where you see a bunch of shorts and they all tie together. Well, I'm just describing what an anthology is for the audience. I'm sorry. Speaking of not trusting your audience, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Criticism I had earlier.
Jake.
That sounds like it would be up my alley. Mine is gonna be another shot in the dark. You love my shots in the dark. It's gonna be House. I think it's from like '86.
Okay, I know which one you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
I can't tell if it's like campy or serious, but it's an '80s movie, so it's probably gonna be campy.
I'm not gonna spoil.
Oh,
Okay,
you've
that's
seen
my
it.
I've seen it.
House.
Josh, do you want to do a rec?
You're more than welcome. We don't mind.
It's up to you. You don't have
You
to.
guys want that I recommend? I can do that.
Well, we won't talk
Hey.
about it.
It's fine. Okay. So, literally, I'm just Googling right now top horror movies of
No,
2021.
no, never mind. Nope,
That's how-
your privileges are taken away.
Hey, no. Guys, I am a few beers in here, so I'm going to recommend, and you can choose not to or not. All right. Spiral from the Book of Saw, because I'm into torture porn, apparently,
I have not seen
from my
I haven't.
past stuff.
and it's been on my watch
It's
list.
a Chris Rock, Samuel L. Jackson, Max Minghella. May 14th is the release date this year.
Yeah, it's out.
So that looks interesting.
It's out.
Yeah,
So yeah.
I'll watch that. That sounds like a good one,
Okay.
actually.
All right.
Yeah. So
All right.
and
Well,
Chris Rock apparently is in horror films now, I guess, because he's been in a couple lately.
Oh.
So that's
Good for him.
all right.
Well,
Well,
probably
I wanna-
bad for him.
Sorry, the latency makes it difficult not to speak over each other sometimes. Well, I want to thank everybody that's listening to the 19th episode. We're excited to bring you the 20th, and if you guys want to watch along with us and follow along, we should be back in about a month and talking about it. So have a great day, and like and comment. All right.